Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to configure VLAN and inter-VLAN routing on a FortiGate firewall. Let's begin. Before we start this video, I would like to encourage you to click on the subscribe button. This is to encourage me to keep creating more videos such as this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to log in to my firewall. This firewall is already pre-configured with the interfaces, and also it also has some policy object that was also created for the interface. So as you can see here, I have a LAN interface, I have a WAN interface, and they both have an IP address. I also have DCP/IP, DCP configuration as well on them. So in this case here, I'm going to configure VLAN on this LAN interface. There's so many ways to actually configure VLAN. One of the best way I find very interesting is to use no IP address on this physical interface, and then configure VLAN on the sub interface. So I'm going to click on the LAN port, double click on it, and then I'm going to remove this IP address on this interface. Now you notice this, I actually set it to 0.0.0.0/0, which is actually also the same as ./0/.0.0.0 as well. So whichever format you want to use, both of them works. So I highlight it this way using the CIDR value. I'm going to turn off pinging from that interface, HTTPS of that interface. Then I'm also going to turn off DCP on that interface. I do not need anything on that physical interface. I'm going to click OK. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new interface. And this time around, I'm basically going to be creating VLAN. Notice that the type of interface I'm creating here is a VLAN interface. So VLAN, you give it a name. You can say VLAN 5, you can say you can name it based on the department. Let's say accounting VLAN. It's basically your choice. The most important thing is the VLAN ID. So we can say accounting VLAN is VLAN 5, and we are actually configuring it. Remember, we're using the LAN ports. So we're going to choose LAN ports, and then I'm going to move the IP address that I had earlier, 192.168.183.254. So I'm using the /24. I'm going to move that IP address I have on that physical interface, which was what I removed. I'm going to move that to my virtual interface, which is going to be the IP address will belong to accounting VLAN now. So the role will be LAN, and then we're going to enable ping on it. We're gonna, if you want to be able to access it using the web browser just like this, you're gonna enable the HTTPS. If you want to access it using SSH as well, if you want to be able to monitor it using software like Orvik or PRTG or all that kind of monitoring software, use SNMP. So you can enable some of the things that you think you need. I'm going to leave it at this. I'm going to configure a DHCP server. In this case here, I'm just going to make this very simple. I'm just going to start with 100 and I'm going to stop at 150. I'm actually not going to do more than that. Notice that I leave out 1 to 99 and leave out 151 to 253 because 254 is already assigned to this interface here. I'm going to use the same gateway, which is going to be this one here. I'm going to use the same DNS, which is the DNS that is configured here. If you want to specify a DNS, you could just click here and add the DNS that you want to use. Like in this case, you could just say but I don't want to do that. I just want to use the same DNS. So I'm going to change this to a day, and then make sure that this is enabled, and then click OK. So that object set. Yeah, because this is actually trial version. I have some limitation on the number of objects I can set. Let me quickly make some corrections to that. Give me a moment. So let me just explain what is basically going on. What is actually going on here is because this is an evaluation version. I'm limited to three interfaces. So I have the ISP interface, I have the LAN port, I have the port 3. So creating a VLAN interface as well is considered as four interfaces. So that wouldn't work. So I'm going to remove this, what's it called? This uh, port 3. I'm going to remove it out of the my network interface. So that will allow me to create the VLAN. Okay, so as you can see, I've been able to remove the interface. You might be wondering, what did I do? How did I remove the interface? Because this is a VM on my AXI host. What I just did was to shut down my FortiGate, and then I went to edit, and then I remove the other interfaces that were there. I just left only these two interfaces here, so that allows me to be able to create. So that will allow me to create my VLAN. So in this case, now I have two physical interface. Before now, I have more than two. So with this, now we can actually continue what we're creating. So I'm going to create a new interface, like we rightly named earlier, accounting VLAN, and then we are using the physical interface. We said it was VLAN 5, and we gave it 192.168.254/24, and then we allow it to ping, we allow SSH, we allow HTTPS, we allow SNMP, we created a DHCP server IP range, and then we name it from 100 to 150, and then we change the list time, and then we let the DNS the way it is. We make sure it's enabled. We click OK, and you notice in this case it was created. So all I'm trying to say is that because this is an evaluation version, we won't be able to create more than three physical interfaces, as in three interfaces, whether physical or logical. So in this case here, as you can see, my VLAN is created. If I try to recreate a new VLAN, you're going to have that same object error. Let's say, for example, we name this sales VLAN, and then we say the interface is basically going to be the LAN interface. And then let's call this VLAN 6. Let's name this 192.168.184.254/24, and then we could allow this as well, just the same way, or we could just only allow ping on it, whichever one. But I want to just make it the same thing, and then configure DHCP on it. Let's say begin from 100, stop at 150. Then change this to 86400, and then make sure it's enabled. If you click OK, you'll see that the error comes back again. So basically it's telling you you can have more than three interfaces. So the fourth one is actually not allowed, so there's nothing you can do. It's basically the limitation for the evaluation license. So if you have a license, you definitely could create as many interfaces as you want. All right, so we're just going to work with the three interfaces we have. We have what's it called? We have ISP, we have a VLAN. What I can do is, since I have, what's it called? Since I can only use three interfaces, what I can do is I can actually configure IP address on the LAN port as well. So you could actually still use a LAN port in this case. So let's use this 184.254/24. Or let me name this 182. Okay, and then I'm going to allow the LAN ports to have those access. I'm also going to configure a DHCP on the LAN port as well. That's what it came from 100, and that will stop at 150. Now, there is no rule that says this can begin from 1 or from 2 because we're basically using the last available IP address in the subnets. So there's no rule that says it can begin from 1 or 2. So in this case here, we're just using this as an example. So it's depending on the number of IP addresses you want in your subnets. That's what you're going to create the range. So you don't really leave too much available IP address that you're not really using. It's they're still there. You can always extend them if you want to, so that those devices that need IP can get the IP address, and those that don't need IP address, like all those rogue devices that connect to your network, will not be getting any IP address. So I'm just going to click on Okay, so right now, as you can see, I have a physical interface, I have an IP address on my physical interface, an IP address on my virtual interface, or my VLAN interface. Now, it's very important for you to understand that I made a mistake here. I was wondering why it was showing me is a Netherlands IP. I just noticed that I wrote 16 instead of 168. So the address is actually a public address. I need to make a correction to that. It's supposed to be 168, not 16. Um, when you make corrections to that, you need to be sure that your DCP also had the correct information. Notice in this case, it doesn't. So this is going to be 168 and this is going to be 168. Now, sometimes it's always very good to make some mistake during training. When in live environment, you don't want to make this kind of mistake. All right. So here, when I did the 168, notice that the Netherlands logo is no longer showing because this is now a private IP address. It's basically saying that this address that you're seeing here is a private IP. So here we have two interfaces. One is a physical, one is a virtual. So um, this is how you create your VLAN just by coming to create new interface and then selecting the VLAN number and the alias name, which is the name the interface will be identifiers. Notice this says VLAN. Notice this says physical interface, so you can identify a physical interface, which is this one here, from a virtual interface, virtual LAN. So this is what we have. So next thing you're going to do, which is very important, is that you're going to create a firewall policy. So the firewall policy is what will allow communication from your VLAN. So for example, if you have um, users in accounting VLAN, for example, what do you want them to have access to? Do you want them to have access to the internet? If you want them to have access to the internet only, this is what you do. Access to the internet only, this is what we'll do. We'll go to firewall policy and we create, and then we say accounting to ISP. Please remember this naming is basically whatever you want to name it as, however you want to name it. So we're going to say incoming, coming from accounting, going to the ISP. The source is the accounting VLAN address, and then the destination is going to hall because it's going out. Then the services, which also going to be hall. Then we're going to be using NAT to go to the internet. Definitely, you could turn on your antivirus, your DNS filter, your application control, your IPS. These are the default ones. You can basically edit them. We could look at all this. What's it called? Profiles later, security profile later, and make some changes. But for now, we're just going to leave it the way it is. As you can see, this is the current state of the antivirus scan. You also have the web filter. Um, the, this is what you have. You basically have some of the monitoring and so on like that. So for now, we're not going to go deep into that. So you could actually change the security profile. Of course, there's somewhere here. For now, we're just going to leave it that way and then make sure the policy is enabled. We click OK. So what that does is that it creates a profile for accounting that allows you to transfer traffic over the internet. So this rule is very important for users in accounting to go outside to the internet. Now, you remember this video is about inter-VLAN communication. Now, because we were not able to create more than one VLAN, I'm just going to make an assumption that this is also um, a LAN or a virtual LAN. Like, let's say you're using a licensed version, of course, you'll have more than two VLANs. So let's say I want to create a traffic, I want to route traffic between these two network interface here between my LAN and my accounting. So I want people in my LAN network to have access to my accounting network, and I want the same thing from accounting network to have access to my LAN network. So what you're going to do is you're going to go back to policy and object firewall policy. We're going to create, this time we're going to create a policy that allow the LAN to accounting. So any traffic coming from the LAN and is going to accounting, the source is my LAN, which is basically my port 2, and the destination is accounting. Notice in this case, I'm not using all, and then the service here, I want it to be able to go through all ports. Whether they want to do HTTPS, they want to ping, they want to do DNS, whatever they want to do, POP, whatever they want to do. In this case, I'm going to disable NAT. I do not need NAT in between the two um, interfaces. So here I also do not need this, but you can as well turn them on if you want. Basically don't need it, but you can turn them on if you have them customized. So any traffic coming from your LAN to your account, and you also want the well filter, DNS filter, whatever option you want. It's basically your choice. If you don't turn them on, it's also fine. So we're logging this time. We just want to log all session of traffic and then make sure the policy is enabled, and then click OK. So what happens here? Yeah, that's also another limitation. The maximum number of entry has been reached. That's because I have, let me see, I have 4 policies. Yeah, those are serious limitation for the evaluation period. Let me see if I can try that again. I was trying doing account sorry, LAN to accounting. I have a particular one I did in the last video that I need to remove to give me access to the number of policy I can create. So here it's coming from my LAN, which is my port 2, and then my destination is my accounting. So here, all, and then turn off NATs, and then we said you can turn some of this on if you want. Then we log in all the sessions, and then we ensure the policy is enabled. Click on OK. Notice this time it worked. The reason why it worked is because now I have 3 policies: 1, 2, 3. So earlier I had 3. One of them was disabled, which I had to remove, and that particular policy is actually it mixed it 4 when I created the next one. So, and that actually was against the free or the evaluation policy, which basically means I can't create more than 3 interfaces, more than 3 policy, and so on like that. So in this case here, this allowed traffic to go from the LAN to the accounting. But note this, traffic will not be able to come from accounting to the LAN. If you want traffic to come from accounting to the LAN, what you would do is to create new, and you can say accounting to LAN. Now, sometimes you don't want traffic to come from accounting into your LAN, but you want your LAN to go to your accounting. Whichever reason why you're doing that is basically up to you. But in this case, please note I won't be able to complete this because of the limitation, but we're still going to go through the step. So here we're coming from accounting, we're going to the LAN. Notice my LAN is port 2. That's why you see me saying port 2 address here earlier. So my source is my accounting VLAN address. My destination is my port 2 address. So, and then I'm using all services. I've explained that to you. So turn off NAT. We do not need NAT. And like I said, you could use any of these, and you could choose not to use them. You could use some of them or none of them. Then you could log all the policy, make sure this is enabled, and then we click OK, and now it gives us the maximum entry has been reached. So even if I turn, let me see if I turn it off. even if it's not in the office, it's not going to work. So policy has to be enabled anyway. So basically, this is what to do and how to create it. So this would allow traffic from accounting to go to land. But if you don't do it this way, uh, what you basically have in this rule here, the first rule here says accounting can go to the ISP. So what you see here is from anything from coming from the accounting land going outside is allowed. Then then the second rule says land to accounting. So anything coming from the land can actually go to the accounting. So basically, in this case here, you might have some servers in the accounting department, the people in the land network you want them to access, but you don't want people in accounting to have access to any resources in the land. So that's why you would do a policy like this. The third policy we have here says land to ISP, means the land people also can go to the internet as well. So in this case, you notice any land can actually go. Uh, this is actually very, very nice. Land can go, land coming from anywhere and then can go anywhere. So land can go to the ISP as well. Of course, we can see that we have some traffic already. In this case, there's no traffic here because I've not assigned any uh, device to any of this network. That's why you don't have any traffic. But normally, once you have a device in accounting VLAN, you have a device in the LAN, you'll begin to see some of this traffic as well here. So, and then the final one, which is the implicit deny, this basically means that any traffic that doesn't match these two, I'm sorry, that doesn't match these three rules should be denied. So something like anybody coming from accounting trying to go into the LAN will hit this last one here because the rules are going as in are followed line by line. So you will first check the traffic is going to from accounting and the traffic is going to the LAN. The first one says traffic coming from accounting to ISP, so that doesn't match. So we jump to the next one. It's coming from accounting, but this one says land to account, so this one doesn't match. So it's going to jump to the next one. The next one says land to ISP, doesn't match, so it's going to go jump to the last one, which is deny. So basically, that traffic will be blocked. So that is how to create VLAN and inter VLAN routing on FortiGate firewall. Please subscribe, like this video. If you have any question, please place it. If you have any comments as well, they will be well appreciated. Thank you so much for viewing.